The night was silent, heavy with rain. Lightning split the sky, and thunder shook the thin walls of Evan Calloway's garage. He wiped grease from his hands and leaned over a half-repaired hover engine, listening to the storm. Outside, the world was dark, empty, except for the faint sound of something tapping against metal. A knock. Sure. Deliberate. Not like a branch scraping the roof, not like rain bouncing off tin. Evan froze. His heart thudded. He had lived alone long enough to know when a sound was real and urgent. Another knock. Louder this time. He straightened, fingers tightening on his wrench. "Who's out there?" he called, his voice steady but cautious. Only the wind answered. Evan set the wrench down and walked to the heavy door at the garage's edge. The storm threw sheets of rain across the yard, making the few scattered tools and parts glint like tiny stars. He pulled open the door just a crack, eyes narrowing. Standing in the rain was something he hadn't seen in years. Something impossible. A dragon. Albino. Its scales shimmered faintly in the stormlight, pale as bone but glowing from some inner source. It was bigger than he remembered, wings folded tight against its sides, eyes wide and intelligent. Evan's breath caught. This was the dragon he had rescued as a hatchling years ago, hiding it from hunters, nursing it back to health in secret. He had thought it gone, lost to the wild or perhaps to the sky forever. The dragon tilted its head, and for a moment, Evan wondered if it truly remembered him, or if it even recognized the human who had once saved its life. Then it nudged something forward with its snout, a small, smooth object, glowing faintly. An orb no bigger than a fist, pulsing with pale light like a heartbeat. Evan's eyes widened. He had no idea what it was. His first instinct was caution, but his second was action. He stepped fully outside, rain drenching his coat, hands open to show no threat. "It's okay. I won't hurt you," he said softly. The dragon's large eyes reflected a deep intelligence, an unspoken trust. Evan felt his chest tighten. He had saved a life before, but nothing could have prepared him for this reunion. A crack of thunder echoed close, and the dragon flinched. It shifted, tense like it expected danger. Evan's instincts sharpened. He glanced around the dark yard. No humans, no hunters, yet. But something in the air felt wrong. That orb in its snout pulsed faster now, as if reacting to an invisible presence. Evan frowned. "What is this?" he muttered. He reached out, careful, and touched the orb. The moment his fingers brushed it, it pulsed brighter, warm and alive in his hand. The dragon let out a low, vibrating growl, not angry but warning. Evan jerked back, rain splashing, heart hammering. Something unseen shifted in the shadows of the garage. Evan didn't wait. He grabbed the orb and ran inside, slamming the door against the storm. He leaned against it, breathing hard, drenched and shivering, listening. The dragon followed, squeezing through the door with a grace that made him stumble backward. It pressed against him, a reassuring weight of muscle and warmth. Evan ran a hand along its neck and a small, thankful sound escaped it, a sound he remembered from years ago. Then the unexpected happened. From the yard, a beam of light flickered, thin, mechanical, unnatural. A small drone, black and sleek, hovered in the rain, scanning. Its sensors glowed as it locked onto the dragon. Evan's mind raced. He had no weapon. Nothing but tools, engines and his own wits. The dragon hissed, wings flaring slightly, tail lashing in warning. Evan grabbed a heavy wrench from the workbench. He didn't want to fight. It wasn't about strength. He had to think, act, survive. He noticed the garage roof had loose metal panels. A quick idea sparked. He yanked a chain across the drone's path and swung the panels. Sparks flew, the drone wobbled, recalibrated, but for now, Evan and the dragon had a few seconds. Enough to breathe, enough to consider their next move. The orb pulsed again in his hand, stronger this time, like a heartbeat out of sync with his own. The dragon nudged him toward the small, hidden back exit. Evan understood they needed to move. Something was coming. Something dangerous. But just as they turned to leave, a sudden sharp crack rang through the garage. Part of the ceiling gave way, a beam falling inches from Evan's head. The dragon let out a startled roar, the sound shaking the walls. Evan's heart leapt. Whatever was out there, whatever had followed the dragon home, was not alone, and it had been waiting. Evan held the orb tightly, drenched and trembling, and glanced at the dragon. Its eyes met his, full of intelligence and trust, and in that moment he knew one thing. He would protect it. No matter the odds. Then, from the shadows beyond the broken garage wall, a faint shape shimmered, too large, too deliberate to be human. And a deep, mechanical hum began, low and menacing. The dragon stiffened, ears flattening, wings twitching. Evan's pulse raced. The storm outside seemed small compared to the storm that had just arrived in his garage. He swallowed hard. "What have you brought back to me?" he whispered. And the orb pulsed brighter as if answering him. Evan barely had time to breathe before the humming grew louder. The shadows beyond the broken wall shifted, revealing the sleek black drone in full. Its eyes glowed red, scanning the garage, locking onto the dragon and the glowing orb in Evan's hand. The orb pulsed faster, hotter, almost as if it could feel the danger. The dragon stepped closer to Evan, wings slightly raised, tail curling in tension. Evan's mind raced. He had no weapons designed for this. But he had tools, quick thinking, and the one thing the drone couldn't predict: human ingenuity. The drone advanced, hovering just above the wet floor. Its sensors swept across the garage, scanning the scattered tools. Every second it hesitated gave Evan ideas. He grabbed a coil of heavy chain, looping it over a support beam. He tugged, letting it fall in front of the drone like a trap. Sparks shot as the metal scraped the floor. The drone faltered slightly, recalibrating, its red lights blinking in confusion. A small victory, and Evan felt a rush of adrenaline. The dragon hissed softly, stepping closer, nudging Evan toward the back exit. Rain still poured outside, and the storm masked some of their movement, but the drone wasn't fooled. Its scanning lights flashed across the walls, the wet tools, the orb in Evan's hand. Evan acted fast. He grabbed an old metal tray from the bench and swung it at the drone's sensors. The impact sent it wobbling, sparks flickering along its body. The drone buzzed angrily, its hum rising in pitch. Evan's heart pounded. He had seconds, not minutes. "Come on," he whispered to the dragon, trying to keep his voice calm. The dragon hesitated, still wary, wings twitching. Evan realized it wasn't just fear. The orb was reacting to the drone. Its pulsing was erratic now, almost like a heartbeat racing. Whatever this orb was, it had power and it was alive in some way. Evan didn't have time to analyze it. He grabbed a wrench, slamming it against another loose panel on the ceiling. The panel swung down with a crash, narrowly missing him but hitting the drone. Sparks flew. The drone wobbled again, sensors flickering, momentarily blind. That was all Evan needed. He dove to the side as the dragon squeezed through the back exit, its scales slick with rain, eyes glowing softly in the darkness. Evan followed, clutching the orb. The garage behind them was a mess: fallen beams, broken panels, and the confused drone trying to recalibrate. He didn't look back. Every instinct screamed to keep moving. Outside, the storm was worse than ever. Rain soaked through his coat, lightning flashing over the jagged hills around his small town. Evan led the dragon through the muddy yard toward a hidden path behind his garage. Years ago he had prepared it as an escape route, just in case something ever went wrong. Something was going wrong now. The dragon stopped suddenly. Its ears twitched. Its glowing eyes scanned the sky. Evan looked up and froze. A shadow moved above them. A second drone, larger, more advanced, descended from the storm clouds, scanning for the first drone signal. Its lights swept the area like a predator hunting. Evan swallowed hard. This wasn't random. These machines had been tracking the dragon, tracking the orb, and now they had coordinated. The stakes had jumped from survival to a full-blown hunt. "Stay close," Evan whispered. He led the dragon to a hollowed-out grove of trees, tall and thick enough to hide them. Rain poured down, drenching them, but he used it as cover. The orb pulsed violently in his hand, reacting to the second drone. Its glow cast eerie shadows across Evan's determined face. He didn't understand how it worked, but he knew one thing: it was powerful and he had to keep it safe. Suddenly, the first drone reappeared from the broken garage, flying low, spinning in erratic patterns. It scanned the trees. Evan ducked behind a thick trunk, dragging the dragon with him. "Hold still," he muttered. The dragon lowered its head, almost mimicking his caution, blending into the shadows. Evan's mind worked quickly. He remembered a box of old mechanical parts in the back of the grove: rods, metal scraps, small engines. He grabbed a few, tying them together into a crude noise trap. He set it down, pulled a lever, and ran. The trap clanged, spinning metal and sparks shooting up. The first drone flinched, its sensors scrambling. A small victory, yes, but the larger drone above had not moved. Its hum deepened, scanning the grove. Evan's chest burned from running, but he didn't stop. The dragon nudged him, its hot breath on his arm. He realized then that they weren't just running, they were communicating. The dragon's movements were deliberate, guiding him towards safer ground. He marveled at its intelligence, remembering all the years he had nurtured it, teaching it to survive, not knowing the universe would one day demand it return the favor. They reached a small ridge overlooking the town. Evan crouched, breathing hard, the dragon beside him. Below, the lights of the drones glowed like distant stars on the wet streets. The orb pulsed again, brighter, and suddenly, a low vibration ran through the ground. Evan felt it through his boots. The dragon stiffened. Something else was coming, something bigger, something he couldn't see yet. Evan gripped the orb tightly. He looked at the dragon, whose gaze was fixed on the horizon. "We've survived this far," he whispered. "But it's not over." From the dark sky, a shadow fell across the ridge, vast and deliberate. A mechanical hum filled the air, deeper than before, almost alive. Evan's heart raced. He had no idea what it was, but he knew one thing: the next move would decide everything. The dragon lowered its head, pressed close to him, and a single glowing pulse shot from the orb, illuminating their faces in the storm. Evan understood then they were not just running. They were being called to fight. And from the horizon, something massive stirred, shifting just beyond the clouds, unseen but impossible to ignore. Evan's chest heaved, rain plastering his coat to his back. The dragon pressed close, muscles coiled, tail twitching like a live wire. The orb pulsed violently in his hand, brighter than ever, as though warning him. His mind raced. He couldn't fight whatever was coming blindly. He needed answers, and fast. Then it happened. A hum unlike the drone's mechanical buzz filled the air, resonating from the orb. Evan's fingers tightened around it, and suddenly a voice, soft, calm, yet unmistakably intelligent, echoed in his mind. Not spoken aloud, but inside him. "Evan Calloway." He froze, heart thundering. The voice continued. "It is time to understand. You once saved me. Now I return the favor." The dragon's eyes met his, glowing like twin lanterns. Evan realized the orb was communicating, linking them. Not random machinery, not just a beacon. Something alive was speaking through it. The truth slammed into him. The dragon itself was sending the signal all these years, and the orb was the key. The rain fell harder, streaking down the orb's surface. Evan's mind whirled. If the orb could communicate, could it call others? Were the drones responding to it, or trying to take it? He had to find out. "Stay calm," he whispered to the dragon, though his own voice shook. "We need to think." He dropped to one knee, examining the orb. Symbols had appeared on its surface, tiny lines, almost like circuits, moving and shifting in rhythm with the dragon's heartbeat. Evan traced them with his finger, instinctively recognizing patterns from his years of tinkering. Electrical currents, timing sequences, energy flows. The orb wasn't just glowing, it was alive, aware, and strategic. A thought struck him. If he could decipher the sequence, maybe he could control the signal, or at least understand what it wanted. But the storm raged, the drones were circling, and he had no tools beyond what he carried. He had to improvise. He grabbed a nearby metal rod, laying it across two metal plates on the ridge. Using the orb's pulses, he tried to mirror its rhythm, striking the rod in time with the light. Sparks flew, electricity arcing dangerously close to his soaked hands. The dragon watched, tail twitching in encouragement. Then click. A faint sound like a lock releasing. A new pattern of light shot from the orb into the sky. Evan squinted through the rain and saw it. A signal beam, wide and faint, reaching past the clouds. Whatever had been tracking them reacted immediately. The first drones hesitated, then retreated slightly as if confused or waiting. Evan's pulse raced. He had done something. Not victory, but understanding. The orb was a beacon, a call for help, not a weapon. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. This was bigger than the drones, bigger than the storm, bigger than his little town. The dragon shifted, wings stretching slightly, almost as if nodding approval. Evan felt a strange connection. He wasn't just looking after the dragon. He was now part of something larger, something cosmic. The orb pulsed against his palm, faster and hotter. Suddenly the ridge beneath them shook. Not from the storm. Something massive moved below, just beyond the treeline. Evan glanced at the dragon, whose ears flattened, wings twitching. The orb's glow intensified, casting harsh shadows across the trees, and for a moment, Evan realized, this wasn't just reconnaissance. Something had come to see the signal. His instincts screamed, they were no longer just hiding. They had been found. Evan stood, holding the orb high. Lightning split the sky, revealing movement, large, armored shapes glinting faintly through the rain. Alien forms, taller than humans, sleek, mechanical yet organic. They didn't speak. Their presence alone radiated threat, precision, and intelligence. The orb pulsed in his hand, almost synchronizing with his heartbeat, as if lending him courage. He glanced at the dragon. Its eyes burned with trust and expectation. Evan swallowed hard. He had choices: run and hide or face the unknown with what little he had. There was no backup, no reinforcements. Only him, the dragon, and the orb pulsing like a living heart. He stepped forward. "We won't run," he whispered, voice shaking but firm. "We survive. We fight. Together." The dragon let out a low, resonant growl, almost approving. The orb pulsed brighter, and Evan realized it wasn't just a beacon anymore. It was a guide, a weapon, and a key all at once. From the shadows, a third, enormous silhouette emerged, dwarfing the drones and even the dragon. It moved with deliberate, terrifying precision, sensors scanning the ridge. Evan felt a surge of fear, but it was quickly replaced by determination. He had saved this dragon once. He had protected life when it mattered most. He could do it again. The orb pulsed violently, almost vibrating through his bones. Then a sudden flash of light, blinding, sharp, and beautiful, shot from the orb into the massive figure. The alien staggered, halting mid-step. Evan realized something incredible. He could influence them, communicate, even defend with the orb. His mind raced. One move, one risk, and they could survive the night. But the storm, the aliens, and the drones were relentless. Every second mattered. The dragon hissed, wings flaring. Evan tightened his grip on the orb. Heart hammering, rain soaking him to the bone, he took a deep breath. Whatever came next, he would act. He would protect the dragon. He would survive. And then, another pulse shot from the orb, this time larger, wider, illuminating the horizon. Beyond the storm clouds, lights blinked, vast, distant, yet undeniably watching. Something bigger than the drones, bigger than this night, had answered the call. Evan's stomach tightened. He swallowed. The micro cliffhanger hit. They had been found, but not by the enemies they expected. Something enormous was coming, intelligent, relentless, and curious about the dragon and him. The dragon nudged him closer. Evan gritted his teeth. "All right," he whispered, voice low, fierce, determined. "Let's see what we're dealing with." And the orb pulsed again as if agreeing. The lights on the horizon grew brighter, cutting through the storm like icy knives. Evan's heart pounded in his chest, rain soaking him to the bone, mud clinging to his boots. The dragon pressed against him, wings twitching, tail coiled like a spring. The orb in his hand pulsed violently, bright enough to cast long, jagged shadows across the trees. The presence coming toward them was massive, bigger than anything he had ever seen, alive and clearly aware of both him and the dragon. "Stay close," Evan whispered, though his teeth chattered. The dragon nudged him forward, almost urging him to move toward the ridge's edge. His instincts screamed danger, but retreat wasn't an option. The orb had shown him its power, and if he could control it, they might survive. A deep, mechanical hum echoed across the ridge. The enormous figure stepped into the open, tall, armored, half-organic, each movement precise and deliberate. Its head tilted slightly, sensors glowing as it scanned the duo. The first and second drones hovered near the ridge, spinning in confusion at the sight of this new presence. Evan's stomach sank. This wasn't a scout. It was a hunter. He took a breath, thinking fast. The orb pulsed against his palm as if answering his unspoken question. "What can we do?" Then he understood. It wasn't just a beacon. It could interact. It could disrupt. It could fight with him. "All right," he muttered. "Let's do this." He raised the orb high, letting its light wash over the figure. The alien hesitated, sensors flickering, and Evan saw a small, critical reaction, a weakness in its scanning pattern. Without thinking, he slammed the orb onto the metal rod he had set earlier, using the pulse's energy to ignite a small, makeshift EMP. Sparks shot across the mud, and the first drone wobbled violently, spinning out of control. The second drone veered back, momentarily disabled. The larger figure froze, sensors flickering in confusion. Evan's heart leapt. It worked, but only partially. The armored alien recovered instantly, a low, resonant sound vibrating through the ridge. It stepped closer, massive feet sinking into the mud, and raised what looked like a weapon integrated into its arm. Evan realized then, there was no fighting it head-on. Survival meant speed, cunning, and using the dragon, and the orb, together. He shouted, "Now!" The dragon responded instantly. Wings flared, muscles coiling, and it leaped forward, flames sparking from its nostrils in a defensive roar. The alien staggered, surprised by the dragon's agility and the sudden heat. Evan ran alongside, using the orb's pulse to disrupt sensors, throwing sparks into its path. Every strike, every flash bought them seconds. Seconds they desperately needed. The alien fired a beam, a thin, precise strike that cut through the mud where Evan had been seconds before. He ducked, barely avoiding it, and rolled behind a tree. The dragon hissed, circling him, lashing its tail. The orb pulsed stronger, brighter, almost guiding his next move. Evan's mind raced. He couldn't destroy this being. But maybe, just maybe, he could channel the orb's energy through the dragon, amplifying its natural power to drive the alien back. He whispered to the dragon, voice low but urgent. "Trust me. We can do this. Together." The dragon blinked, then lowered its head, wings tight. Evan placed the orb along its neck, feeling energy pulse through his fingers into the dragon's scales. A shock ran through him, but the dragon roared, its own energy flaring in harmony with the orb. The larger figure faltered, sensors flickering, lights dimming as the combined force of dragon and human ingenuity pushed it backward. Evan felt a surge of hope and fear. One wrong move and they were finished. He remembered every choice that had led to this moment. Saving the dragon as a hatchling, protecting it from hunters, even tinkering in his little garage. Every act of courage, every bit of intelligence, every ounce of compassion, it all mattered now. The alien paused, recalculating. Then a faint sound, a whistle of retreat, echoed through the rain. The drones dropped back, disrupted by the combined pulse. The massive figure moved slowly backward, finally vanishing into the clouds beyond the ridge, leaving silence and heavy rain in its wake. Evan collapsed to his knees, soaked, shaking, chest heaving. The dragon nudged him, warmth against his side as if saying, "We survived. Together." The orb's glow dimmed, calm now, like a heartbeat slowing after a sprint. Evan held it close, realizing the bond they shared wasn't just physical, it was cosmic. He had faced impossible odds, survived, and protected life through courage, intelligence, and empathy. A small smile tugged at his lips despite exhaustion. He whispered, "We did it. We made it." The dragon's low rumble echoed, vibrating through the ground like an affirmation. Evan knew the creature trusted him completely, and for the first time in years he felt whole, connected, powerful in a way he never could have imagined. But the storm wasn't over. Beyond the clouds, lights flickered again, faint but undeniable. The larger fleet had noticed the signal. They had seen the orb pulse. And somewhere out there, far bigger threats, intelligent and relentless, were preparing to arrive. Evan tightened his grip on the orb, feeling the energy still humming, alive in his hands. The dragon nudged him forward, and for a moment, Evan allowed himself to feel pride. Not just for surviving but for proving that humans could face impossible odds and prevail, not through brute strength but through courage, cleverness, and compassion. Lightning cracked, illuminating the horizon. Shadows shifted in ways Evan couldn't predict. The orb pulsed once more, stronger, brighter, almost like it knew what was coming. The dragon lowered its head, pressing close to Evan. He looked out at the stormlit sky and whispered, "We've won tonight, but this isn't the end." And above the clouds, unseen but watching, something vast moved, responding to the orb's pulse, curious, deliberate, and waiting. The micro cliffhanger hit. Bigger challenges, smarter enemies, and new mysteries were coming, far beyond anything Evan had faced before. The rain continued to pour, the dragon's warmth pressed against him, and the orb hummed softly in his hand, a living reminder that their journey had only just begun. The rain finally eased, turning to a soft drizzle that slicked the muddy ridge. Evan sank to the ground, exhausted, his coat soaked and torn. The dragon pressed against him, warmth and steady weight anchoring him in the chaos. The orb in his hand had dimmed, glowing faintly, almost like a heartbeat slowing after a sprint. For a moment, silence settled over the storm-tossed landscape. Evan took a deep breath, letting it fill his lungs. The drones had retreated, the massive figure had vanished into the clouds, and the immediate threat was gone. He looked at the dragon, eyes gleaming with intelligence and trust, and a tight lump rose in his throat. Years ago he had saved it when it was just a fragile hatchling, alone and starving. And now it had returned, not just alive but strong, loyal, and willing to fight beside him. You came back," Evan whispered, voice breaking. The dragon nudged him gently, almost as if to say, "I never left." The connection between them felt profound, unspoken, cosmic. The orb pulsed softly, reassuring him, like it was aware of their bond and the choices that had brought them here. Evan surveyed the damage around the ridge, the broken trees, the disturbed mud, the wreckage of the drones. It was a mess, but it was proof that survival required more than luck. It required courage, intelligence, and quick thinking. He had relied on every skill he had: his mechanical knowledge, his experience with improvisation, and his ability to make split-second decisions. The lesson was clear: humans were capable of more than brute strength. They could triumph with cleverness, determination, and compassion. The dragon's tail curled around him protectively. Evan laughed softly, a sound of relief and disbelief. "You trusted me," he said. "I won't ever let you down again." The dragon nudged the orb toward him, almost encouraging him to examine it. Evan held it in his hands, feeling the residual energy thrum against his palms. He realized the orb wasn't just a tool or a signal, it was a link, a living connection to the dragons and, somehow, to the forces beyond his world. As the drizzle turned to mist, Evan noticed something remarkable. A second, smaller dragon, a hatchling, was emerging from the underbrush, drawn to the orb's faint glow. Its scales were pale like the first dragon, shimmering even in the dim light. The sight filled Evan with a surge of wonder and pride. He had saved one life years ago, and now he had two, both alive, intelligent, and tied to him in ways he didn't yet fully understand. He knelt, holding out his hand to the tiny dragon. It approached cautiously, sniffing him before nudging against his palm. Evan smiled, feeling a bond form instantly. "You're safe now," he said softly. "All of you." The dragons responded with quiet growls and soft rumbles, a symphony of trust and connection that resonated deep in his chest. The orb pulsed once more, and Evan realized it carried a message, one that he couldn't fully decode yet. Something beyond the ridge had seen it, something far larger than the drones or the solitary figure in the clouds. And though it had not come to attack tonight, its presence lingered, like a shadow on the horizon. Evan rose, brushing mud from his coat, and turned to the dragons. "We've made it this far," he said. "But there's more out there. Something bigger. I can feel it." The albino dragon spread its wings, muscles rippling, eyes fixed on the horizon. Evan knew then that they were not just survivors, they were a team. And whatever the universe had in store, they would face it together. The wind shifted, carrying a faint hum from the distance. It was not threatening but deliberate. The orb pulsed in Evan's hand, stronger, almost like a heartbeat matching his own. He realized that this was not the end, it was a beginning. The dragons, the orb, and he were now connected to a larger web of life, intelligence, and challenges far beyond anything he had imagined. He knelt beside the larger dragon, stroking its neck gently. "I never thought I'd be part of something like this," he murmured. "But I'm ready. I'll protect you. I'll protect whatever comes next." The dragon lowered its head, pressing close. The smaller dragon chirped softly, echoing the sentiment, and Evan felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility and purpose. Lightning flashed briefly, illuminating the ridge and the mist rolling in from the valley below. In that instant, Evan saw the faint outline of a fleet beyond the clouds, shapes larger and more complex than any machine he had ever known. They hadn't attacked, not yet, but the pulse of the orb had reached them. They were aware. Watching. Curious. Evan's mind raced. He had survived impossible odds tonight, relying on ingenuity, courage, and compassion. But tomorrow and the day after and the days to come would bring new challenges, far larger than anything he had faced. And yet, standing there with the dragons, the orb in hand, he felt ready. Humans could rise to challenges the universe itself could throw at them, if they had courage, cleverness, and heart. He looked at the albino dragons and smiled, wet hair plastered to his forehead. "We've got each other," he said. "And that's all we need to face what's coming." The dragons rumbled softly, the sound vibrating through the ground and Evan's chest, a gentle reminder that trust and loyalty could survive even in the storm. As the mist thickened, the orb pulsed once more, brighter than before, sending a faint signal beyond the clouds. Evan clenched it tightly, knowing it would guide them, warn them, and perhaps even protect them in ways he couldn't yet understand. But he also knew one thing clearly: whatever was out there, whatever intelligence, whatever force, the humans had shown tonight. Courage, determination, intelligence, and empathy had turned the odds in their favor. And the adventure was just beginning. From the clouds above, a subtle shimmer of light indicated movement, distant and mysterious. The fleet had noticed the orb. The humans had survived tonight, but the universe had taken note. Evan glanced at the dragons, then to the horizon and whispered, "We'll be ready." The alien fleet has now fully registered the orb's pulse. It hasn't attacked yet, but larger forces are moving, curious and deliberate. Viewer is left thinking, what will this fleet want from Evan and the dragons? How far will the challenges escalate?